Hi, this is Mrs. Champagne. Welcome to my video on solving equations in 2 easy steps. So the goal of solving an equation is to find a numeric value for x. So we want to find out what's the numeric value for our variable x. And the goal is to get something that looks like this. X equals, and then a number in this area. So x equals some sort of number that we would put in here, and we would get that through solving an equation. So what are the 2 steps to solving an equation? I said there were 2 easy steps. Well, the first step is going to be performing addition or subtraction, and the second step is going to be performing multiplication or division. And we'll see what that looks like when we try a problem next. Let's practice solving the next 3 questions. Pause the video before I solve each equation, and then solve it yourself. Then press play to see how you did. Let's solve 3x plus 5 equals 17. Go ahead and pause the video now and work on the solution, and then check back to see how you did. 3x plus 5 equals 15. The first thing we're going to do is draw a dividing line right down the equal sign. So this is going to be dividing our equation into 2 parts. The left-hand side, which we're going to say is going to be for the variables, and the right-hand side, which we're going to say is for the constants, or the numbers that don't have a variable. The constants are the numbers that stand alone. So first thing we're going to do is circle our variable group, and our variable group is 3x. And what that means is hands off. Do not touch this 3x. Okay, leave it alone for now. Remember I said that there are 2 steps to solving an equation. The first step was either going to be addition or subtraction. Well, since we are adding 5 in this equation on the left-hand side, what we want to do is the inverse of addition or subtraction. We want to subtract 5. Now, remember, what we do to the left side, we have to do to the right side, or our equation will not be balanced. So what happens is the 5 and the negative 5 create a 0 pair. So we've done our job on the left-hand side. We've gotten rid of 5, but we still need to subtract it from the right-hand side. So 17 minus 5 is 12. We're going to go ahead and bring the 3x down. Then the next thing we're going to do is circle our variable, and our variable is just x. So what that means is we need to get x alone. But remember that the 3 and the x are joined by multiplication. So remember I said my second step was going to be multiplication or division. What I'm going to do is divide each side of my equation by 3. So what happened is the 3 and the 3 just become 1. Then we are left with x equals 12 divided by 3, or 4. So let's make sure we understand this. The first step that we did was we did the inverse of addition. We subtracted 5 from both sides. That left us with 3x equals 12. Then we said we need to get this x by himself. So since the 3 and the x are multiplied together, let's do the inverse operation, or divide by 3, to get the x all by itself. But we remembered that we had to divide both sides by 3 in order to keep our equation equal. Let's go ahead and check our work and see if 4 is going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our original equation, 3x plus 5, and substitute in our value of 4, where the x is supposed to be. So we get 3 times 4 plus 5 is 17. 12 plus 5 equals 17. And that is a true statement. So we solved the equation correctly. The next equation is 5x minus 6 equals 14. Let's go ahead and draw our dividing line right down the equal sign and circle the variable group 5x. Now, if I look at this left-hand side of the equation, I see that I'm subtracting 6. So I want to do the inverse of subtracting 6, which would be adding 6 to both sides of the equation. Remember, we have to add 6 to both sides in order to keep the equation balanced. I'm left then with 5x, because negative 6 and positive 6, they're a 0 pair, so I've done my job on the left side. And then I just need to add the 14 plus 6 on the right side to get 20. Now I'm going to circle my variable x, And I'm going to realize that the 5 and the x are joined together by multiplication. And remember, the inverse of multiplication is division. So let's divide each side of the equation by 5 and see what happens. Well, 5 over 5 is just 1. So I'm left with 1x, and I just write x equals 20 divided by 5, which is 4. So I'm saying that my answer is x equals 4. But let's see if that works. 5 times 4 minus 6 equals 14. 20 minus 6 equals 14. 20 minus 6 is 14. So I know that my answer of x equals 4 is correct. 1/3 x plus 5 equals 15. Let's draw our dividing line and circle the variable group 1/3 x. You might have noticed by now that the coefficient of x in this problem is 1/3. So let's see how we're going to handle that when we go to step 2 of our equation, when we have to separate the 1/3 from the x. So the first thing I'm going to realize is that I'm adding 5 on the left-hand side of the equation. So remember, first step is either going to be addition or subtraction. Since I'm adding 5 on the left side, I'm going to want to subtract 5 on both sides in order to keep the equation balanced. So what happens is my positive 5 and negative 5 are zero pairs, and they cancel each other out. So we're left with 1/3 x equals 15 minus 5, which is 10. Now, we have this fractional coefficient. We have to figure out what to do with this, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this denominator and say, we don't like denominators. Denominators are not our friends. We always want to get rid of denominators. So what's a quick and easy way of getting rid of the denominator? Well, this is how I do it. 1/3 x equals 10. If I multiplied each side of my equation by 3, what's going to happen is I'm going to have 3 and my 3 cancel, and that's going to leave me with just plain old 1x, or x. But remember, I multiplied 3 on the left-hand side, so that means I have to multiply 3 on the right side in order to keep the equation balanced. So x equals 30. So let's go ahead and substitute x equals 30 back into my original equation and see if it works. 1/3 times 30 plus 5 equals 15. So let's see if this works. So 1/3 times 30. 3 goes into 30 10 times. So that leaves me with 10 plus 5 is equal to 15. And I know that's a true statement, so I know that my solution x equals 30 is correct.